Well, welcome. We have our first one-on-one exclusive interview, and we have Carla Cohen here on the show, which I'm really, really excited about. Welcome, everyone, to the Female Elevation Summit. I'm so excited to share my guest with you today, Carla. She's doing incredible work. And I know this conversation is going to inspire a lot of you that are watching. So, Carla, thank you so much for being here and joining me on the Female Elevation Summit interview. Um, let's start with sharing who you are, what you do. For anyone who's meeting you, finding out about you for the very first time, share who you are and the work you're passionate about.
Well, Pearl, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be part of this, especially this is like the first one. So there's a lot of excitement around it, and I'm loving what I'm seeing. So my passion is helping women close the gap between what their value is and the income that they are trying to achieve in their business. I really want any woman who wants to be financially independent to be able to do that, because I truly believe that many women have still got this idea that a man is a plan, and a man is not a plan. You need to be able to stand on your own. And so, because you never know what's going to happen in your life. And so that's my big thing. I also, as I'm coming out more and more with my messaging, it's really about helping women step more and more into power, and helping in terms of how corporations and businesses are run. We've been twisting ourselves into pretzels for a little too many years. And, women have the knowledge and not the confidence, is what I find. And men have the confidence, but they don't have the wisdom and knowledge that women have. So my idea is that I want to support women in being able to not feel like they have to hold themselves back anymore when it comes to how they behave in a business world.
I love that. Thank you. That's it's exactly along all the things, the missions that we have in this community. So you're in the right place, in the right environment. So it's perfect. Now, I know you do a lot of work around emotional intelligence, which I always love learning and understanding about more. Can you explain what that is? Now it seems like it's like a new word, right? People keep throwing out there like your emotional intelligence, your emotional. What do you believe is that the energetic intelligence in the next evolution? And first, actually explain for a lot of us who don't know. Pretend that people don't know what emotional intelligence means at all, and define first what that means, and then go into that about the future of it.
Okay. Great questions. Thank you. So emotional intelligence, there's been all these studies by different researchers, and what they found is that emotional intelligence is more important than your IQ. So your EQ is more important than your IQ. What is emotional intelligence? It's being able to understand and regulate your own emotions, being able to understand and receive the emotions of others who are around you. Particularly when it comes to managing your emotions. Those are the main points there's other pieces to it, but just to simplify it as much as possible, it's being able to be present and listen to other people and understand what's going on inside you and taking responsibility for that. And so that's a good basis. And, a lot of people confuse emotional intelligence with intuition, and they sound similar, but they're really not, because when we talk about intuition, we're going to deeper levels of understanding when it comes to what's going on energetically for somebody. That's, intuition is starting to have maybe taking the pieces of that you already have experienced it and being able to read between the lines. And that's when we start to cross from emotional intelligence into intuition. And what I'm bringing to the table now is what I'm calling energetic intelligence, which is not just being able to understand your own emotions and know what's going on, but being present to them on a new level and understanding literally what's going on with people around you in the terms of, let's think on a bigger scale, like walk in and read the room, instead of just coming in and doing what it is that you normally do. as how that looks like if you're a leader and you're leading a team and you walk in and your team's getting ready to launch a project, then you walk in and somehow you sense there's like a containment in the room. People don't seem excited. They seem held back. That would be an example of energetic intelligence, being able to notice that that's going on. And the difference is we take that information and we take a pause. And then we say, wait a minute, there's something's not quite right here. And what energetic intelligence means to me is that you now start to engage with the room to see if you can shift that energy. So you would be asking people, so how are you feeling about this project? Getting them engaged so they start to actually have to look at what they're bringing to the table in that moment.
I think that's so important because as a leader, it's the key. I think that makes like a really good leader to be able to engage the room, come in the room, look at everyone, and feel how the leader needs to shift the energy of the room. Because if they don't feel it and they have a huge impact, that they can decrease the energy, right? If they come with this negative, like they're just like, oh, you guys are doing a horrible job. Why was this deadline not met? I mean, everything can just get worse, and that energy level really decreases even faster than before. So I think that's a huge leadership skill.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can you share another example of a leader transforming a situation through energetic awareness, as you were talking about?
Yeah, I have a great example. I was working with an NGO, and the woman who was in charge, she had just gotten placed in her position, and she came into the room. They had an assignment to come up with new funding options for this new project that they wanted to launch. And I was there observing, and when I noticed that when she came in, not only did she seem really stiff and uncomfortable, but you could visibly see people in their seats that their posture started to stiffen a little bit. They were nervous. They didn't know what to expect because she was new, right? So I signaled her from the back of the room and gave her some cues to first of all, to help her ground and get her breath and really pause and feel into herself first, because it's leadership starts with leading you, right? Then from there, she knew the next step, which was she actually literally asked everybody, how are you feeling about this project? I'm sensing a little bit of hesitancy in the room. And she actually addressed it. So that's a huge difference between the old paradigm and the new paradigm. The male paradigm would have been, okay, we're just going to charge through. We've got a project. We have limited time. Let's do A, B, C, D, E. Whereas this new model that I'm proposing of feminine leadership is, okay, I'm noticing I need to check in with me. I need to check in with my team to see what's going on with them. And then when you do that, what you start to do is create an atmosphere of inclusion where people start to want to engage and they start to want to participate more. And when they feel that, it starts to free them up. So the fear of them saying something wrong or making a mistake or misstepping starts to dissolve. And then they come forward with, maybe a better idea than what they would have been working on before.
Exactly. I mean, inclusion is the key. And just people want to be seen. They want to be heard, and they want to know that it's a safe environment that they can speak and, be involved in a team environment and collaborate together versus just like, we have no time to talk about it. We have a deadline. And then when you're trying to drag people in that kind of environment, you're not going to get good results. So for any leaders out there that are listening, this is really important. What Carla is teaching us today. Now, what do you think, in your own words, what do you think empowerment means? Because we talk a lot about that, and me, it's all about empowerment.
Right,
so,
right.
We have empowerment, what truly it means. And then what do you think about, what we're trying to do, the woman-led leadership, right? That's what we're hoping for. What does that look like to you in real life? Because I know you're a leader, you're doing a lot of work. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I think empowerment is making a choice, because you ultimately are the one who decides whether you're going to be in your power or not. The problem is that most of us, especially women, and it is a little bit dependent on what year you were raised and by what kind of family and all those things. But if we go go back, like I was trained to be I was trained to hold myself back, from an early age. When I think about it, it's not that my parents meant to do that, or my teachers or any of that, but I just think of a very simple thing. When I was in junior high school, they had homemaking classes, which was basically cooking, and they had woodworking and they had mechanics. Well, I wanted to do the woodworking. And they're like, you're a girl. You can't be in a woodworking class, right? So I didn't understand that. I was trained that, early on, that there were certain things that I could do and I couldn't do. These were male things and these were female things, right? And although we don't have as much of that, overtly, it's still going on in a covert fashion in every organization that's out there. I was just I don't know if you know this, but I used to be an ambassador for the Irvine Chamber of Commerce. And I remember first of all, there was a man who thought he was being, kind to me. And every time I would come into a meeting and he saw me, he addressed me as sweetheart, which was, completely inappropriate. Right. And so he didn't even know that what he was doing was what I found it to, I know what his intention was, but on some level it was demeaning, because he wouldn't treat another man like that. He wouldn't call another man sweetheart or
Right.
hey, whatever, right? So inappropriate. So when it comes to empowerment, we have to make choices to take the lid off ourselves. We have to start questioning the decisions the beliefs that we have that are keeping us contained, and really ask ourselves, is that belief true? Do I really need to behave in that manner? How is that serving me? Because if you're feeling suppressed and you can't get your passion out and you're not able to get your message across, you're holding yourself back. And I'm here to take the lid off. That's what I want for women.
Right, right. Well, why do you think that so many women shrink their energy though when they're capable of? I mean, I know some of it has to do with how you've been raised, and that's what you've been told. Like, you need to be quiet, you need to step back. Good girls don't, don't make a noise. They follow the rules. They obey. I mean, those were the trainings that we received back then. But
Right.
what do you think is the other reason? That it's because it's still happening. I still see it, that some still feel like they need to shrink and they need to be small, even though they're capable. And as much as we try to remind them, it's just too hard for them. They can't do it.
Well, that's another great question, Pearl, and I'm loving this conversation, by the way. Yeah, well, I'll just talk a little bit more about from my work perspective, because when I work with I work with female leaders, right? Many different kinds of leaders, and what I find is those old belief systems, and I also have a background in body work, so I have about 30 different certifications and a bunch of different modalities. So when I work
You're
with
incredible, Carla.
So I'll bring that healer in with the business strategy to help a leader, not just move forward, but let's eliminate the stuff that's holding you back. And oftentimes it's very unconscious beliefs and energy that's still stuck in their body. And when we're holding on to those beliefs, that energy literally puts a lid on us. And so even if we're trying to move forward, we may be blind, because that's what I find is, if you're a fish and you're in a bowl, you don't know you're in a bowl, right? You just know this is how fish live, right?
Yeah, you don't know better. Yeah.
Right. So when I work with my clients, I'm outside the bowl and I'm looking in and I'm going, look, you got this bowl around you. Let's break the glass, right?
Yeah.
So it's helping them to start, like my job is to help create that awareness in them and say, look, this is what's holding you back. Because when you have those underground emotions that have not been healed, with every unhealed emotion, there's like 16,000 thoughts associated with it. That's a lot of noise up here in your head. And when you get that, we have 95% of the thoughts in our head are negative, and 85% of those are repetitive. That's a lot going on here that holds you back unconsciously. So it's really getting to those, in my opinion anyway, getting to those deeper levels of, okay, let's get rid of that stuff under there that you don't even know you have, because some of it's generational too. You inherited things from, how many years has that been driven into us? Like just looking at women as providers, right? Because it wasn't that long ago that we got the right to vote or
Yes.
have credit cards, right?
Yeah. Yeah, when you put it in perspective, it's really not that long ago. It really
Mhm.
isn't. No, I love that. What you said is very true, and I'm always astonished by how those the negative talks that you've been, you've witnessed or it's been put on you, how powerful they are.
Mhm.
And you have no idea that you're carrying them with you. And if I do, when I work with my clients, I try to get them to check in and write down all their negative thoughts, and it's crazy. And
Mhm.
some of them, once they start writing it down, they realize it's so silly. Like,
Mhm.
who even told me this? Why am I thinking like this? But it's there, and we don't realize it. Instead of like being kind to ourselves on a
Right.
regular basis,
Yeah, yeah,
we are
yeah.
not kind. We're kind to our children, we're kind to our friends, we're kind to people around us, but we are not so kind to ourselves. Ladies, we need to change this. We need to start thinking, the moment that negative thought comes in, cross it off, replace it with a positive one. It's
Yeah.
really powerful when you actually become you really become engaged and realize what you're doing to yourself on a regular basis daily.
Yeah, it's programming over and over again. And so, like any kind of bad computer program, you have to make a decision. First of all, you have to recognize that that
Yes, that's the
what's
first
going
step.
on with you is a pattern, right? But most people, so when you're, again, the world according to Carla, when you have an emotional charge on something, that's showing you it's not the person that you have the problem with. You're mad because you're hitting up against some kind of pattern and you're not aware that you have a pattern. So, the idea of healing the source, the emotional source of that's creating the thoughts, that's creating the energy that person is bumping up against, it's internal. It's not that person's responsibility to, make you feel better. It's your job to go, okay, why, where is this in my body and how, because I'm really all about connecting with the body and the mind and the emotions. It's like, okay, I need to connect with this so that I can move beyond it. Right.
Yeah,
So.
I absolutely agree with you. I feel like ever since I've like kind of discovered emotional intelligence, I have become a lot more peaceful, and I
Mhm.
realize that I'm the only one that can control my inner peace. It has nothing to do. I can't blame that person said this, that person did this, the person drove crazy next to me. It's up to me how I want to react and how I want
Mhm.
to go about to keep the peace inside of me. So, yeah, that's really powerful. Um how do you define success in this season of your life?
Hmm. Gosh,
We
I
get
feel
deep here on these one-on-ones, Carla.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because I feel like I'm in such a season of expansion right now. The book which we're touching on points from it that is coming out actually this week officially has
Woohoo!
really yeah,
You have
yay.
Are you excited? This is big.
Yes, I am excited. I'm excited because I can see what's happening. It's like the response. I just got
You have
a
the
text
author
from.
copy near you or no to bring it up?
I can grab one. Oh,
Yeah,
here.
grab
Yeah.
it. Grab it. Show it to us.
It's sitting on my elephant.
Good
But
luck.
here it is.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. And but anyway, she was just saying she was writing me from Belgium, and she said, I just saw the an interview that you did here, and it was so well received, and I'm getting texts and emails like that from people all over the world. I went to a meeting was it Friday, and I was talking to this group of women, complete strangers, and and she's like, "Well, what's the book about?" And so I started telling the group, and the woman's like, "Oh my God, I'm getting chills! I'm getting chills!" And I feel like, for me, success is like, finally, this is really clearly what my message. This is it's not the only thing I was here to deliver, but it is one of my main purposes to be here. So to me, success is getting in touch more with that and bringing that out onto bigger stages, speaking more to groups, and then, helping facilitate that more in corporations. So because what I believe is, we all know this is a very rough time on the planet, right? Let's not, there's, right?
Yes.
And,
Yes. And
and
another yes. I mean, I don't even want to watch the news anymore. I am like terrified,
yeah,
honestly. Yeah.
It's scary. We don't know what's going to happen next or what country is going to go to war with what, And so to me, there is this wonderful, I used to get, I can't think of the name of it. Oh my God. Well, anyway, there was this wonderful chiropractor that I worked with many years ago, and his thing was Johnny Epstein. It was his saying was healing the world one spine at a time. And I kind of feel that way with leaders and organizations, because if I can help the organization transform and help people transform and help them come into a place of more peace with themselves and a more pleasant experience at work, the world becomes a little less angry. And those little chipping away at all that anger creates more peace worldwide, which is ultimately should be all of our goals, right? Peace and cooperation, and how do we support each other instead of separation, suspicion, and all these things that are out there right now.
Yeah, I think that's great. And it's just one person at a time, and that's been my mission. I always say, like, if one person is learning from me or listening to an episode, or just I've coached them and they've changed, it's like I've made a difference by one. And that's what I always tell people, because a lot of ladies, when they want to start something and they're going after their why, they really think of it huge and they get really scared. Like, no one's going to listen to me. How am I going to have an impact? And we all come up with all of those things. When I initially started, I was like, oh gosh, there's so many podcasts out there. There's so many woman empowerment coaches out there. You can't think like that. You need to just say, okay, this, I'm not for everyone. So I'm going to be clicking for those for my people, and they're going to be coming to me, and I'll make the difference in my environment. And that's all I can do. And that you've made your impact, you've left your legacy, and that's all that really matters. Right. So Carla, tell us about your book.
Well, funny you should ask. Wait a minute. Yes. So this is really the heart of where I'm coming from. So we were talking earlier about energetic intelligence, and emotional intelligence, and what's the difference, right? And so what I'm trying to bring to the table is this new paradigm where we function from a place of what I call energetic coherence, where we start to create more coherent energies from a leadership position as women, and stop trying to hold ourselves back or letting somebody else push us backwards, right? Or suppress us. And so the book is really about the new model, is like, so here's what the new model would look like, like some of the things I was mentioning earlier. The difference now, if people were following this new model, think of it like this. Like, if you have an orchestra, right? And there's a whole orchestra in front of you, and only the flute is playing right now. Okay. And maybe once in a while, the trombone chips in, right? And that's how a lot of organizations function. There's maybe there's one other instrument, so there's maybe 3 instruments or people that are kind of louder than everybody else, and they're kind of leading the charge on whatever the project is. What in the new model that I'm suggesting, we start to bring in everybody. We bring in the keyboards, we bring in the guitar, we bring in, you name it, all these other instruments, because what happens is the difference between an orchestra, a symphony, versus a few instruments is quite obvious, because when you combine everybody all together, you get a whole other animal, right? A whole
music is different, completely different. Yeah.
Right. And so what I'm aiming for is to see that in the corporate environment, because I've worked before, I got into this work many years ago. I worked in Hollywood, and I was passed over for promotions a couple times because I was a woman, and because they were not inclusive cultures, And then when I finally did get promoted, I got paid less than a man, and I got a lesser title than a man got, right? And so I'm trying to usher in, and I didn't know that at the time. At the time, I just thought I wasn't good enough yet. That's how I internalized it.
Yep, of course.
Right? So I went into overdoing everything so that I could prove how good I was, and then I ended up with a health crisis.
So you had burnout, right? That led you to burnout, or?
Well, yeah, I don't know if that was, now knowing what I know about myself and what was going on at the time, a couple things. One is, I know that, yes, I had cortisol levels through the roof if they would have bothered to test, but they didn't check it at that time. And I also recognized that, that was part of my waking up to my intuitive ability. So there was a lot of energy that I was absorbing and not knowing how to interpret at the time. And now, as being able to be intuitive and understand my boundaries so that I'm not taking in anything that's not meant to be, part of. So those were the things that, and the exhaustion and the burn, like the working overtime, right? So it's a combination of all these elements. But energetic overload was part of it. And part of learning it's energetic mastery, like becoming to a place where you start to understand, like, okay, this is me that I'm feeling. And that thing right there that's not me, and who do I want to put out there what do I want out there in the universe? I don't want the not me. I want the me. Right. So I don't know if that made sense, but
no, I understand.
Yeah.
So that's great. First of all, congratulations. I'm really excited for you. And as you can see, we have a banner here that says Get Carla's Book. So if you are interested, this is a great link to go in, and then you can sign up for Inside Scoop and discounts so that you can be one of the first people to get Carla's book, which is really exciting because it is book launch week. So
yeah, I'm excited about it. And I'm curious to see where it goes. Again, like I've had so much positive feedback from, just women all over the world. And even, my brother he bought the book before because he saw a picture of me and with it. And I was very touched by that. So because he's very traditional. So for him to be able to even want to buy it and take a look at what I do think things are changing. And I think we need to retain that optimism about that. There's, I think many women have noticed that we are in a time of shifts where there's more energy for us and more support for us to be able to come out there and give our message. Do you agree?
I totally agree. I do agree. Yeah. Hopefully the shift will continue in the better world that we're going to live in. I'm going to manifest positive energy in everything that's happening. Now, I know you mentioned some items about in your past work, but what would you say is the biggest challenge you have faced as a woman personally or professionally? You've mentioned a few, but is there one that stood out for you bigger than the ones that you mentioned that you want to share with us today?
Well, yeah, that was pretty big. But I'm going to just go to a personal story here really quick, if that's okay.
Of course.
So, because you mentioned personal. So, some years ago, I felt called to go to India. There was a number of things going on. It was after I was recovering from my health crisis. And so I went to a particular ashram up in the Himalayas, and it was right where the Ganges River comes out of the mountains. And there was a temple on either side of the Ganges. The Ganges flowed through the middle, and on one side was one temple, and on the other side was another temple. And I heard that some people were going to climb Mount Kailash, which is this, very spiritual mountain. You've probably heard of it. And I thought, I want to go. I heard that there was a holy man at the top of the mountain, a renunciate, a hermit, and that it was just amazing to experience him. So I decided to go on this climb, and it ended up being 17 hours up shale. Now, shale, if you've never climbed it, is like you go up 5 steps and you slide back 7.
Oh my goodness.
It was exhausting. It was difficult. I remember crying like so many times on that hike, and I really, really wanted to quit and go back. And there was a woman there. I didn't dare go back, though. I just want to say I forgot to mention that once we crossed the river to get up to the base of where we were going, there were fields that the wheat was like up to your eyeballs, very, very tall fields. And they're like, the Sherpa and the guide were saying, look, just stay very close to us because there are tigers here, and, we can't do anything. They don't have guns, right? Like we have to be very careful. So the idea of going back after starting the climb was really impossible. And I kept wanting to go back because every time I climbed, I would slide back and I would cry and I'd go through the same thing. And I did this so many times up this mountain for 17 hours. And this woman was there and she's like, Carla, you just got to keep going. You just got to keep going. And because of her, I was able to make it through this climb, but we had to stop when the Sherpa said stop. They didn't want us to eat or drink unless they told us it was okay, because it literally could cost us our lives. And it was probably one of the most difficult, this was one I made by choice, right? Like I chose to make this difficult thing for myself.
Yes.
And I think that, so then eventually I did get to made it to the top. And I should say we stopped for lunch at one point and I thought, oh, I see the mountain there. I see it. And is that it? And they're like, no, Missy, not that mountain, that one. Which is like,
oh gosh.
So I'm like, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. Like what was I thinking? But anyway, we finished. I got up to the mountain and then to the top of the mountain. And then because it is considered sacred holy land, you are supposed to take your shoes off and walk the last however many yards it is, it was quite substantial. And you can see without looking very hard, there's rocks, there's thorns. I mean, it's not an ideal place to walk barefoot.
Wow.
And so I did, because I'm like, okay, I made it this far. I'm not going to stop now. But do you know that woman who encouraged me, she stopped. She sat down on a rock and she said, I'm not doing this. I'm not going any further. I don't care. And there was nothing I could do to get her to move. And then I made it to where the hermit was. And he started praying from inside of his tent. And I went off into this amazing space that I would say a touch of self-realization, where I got to really experience my full self for a few minutes. And we all sat there, and we were just blissed out. And it was like, oh, it was worth the climb. It was worth the climb. And so the reason I chose that story and that experience is because I know we have a lot of entrepreneurs here listening today, and a lot of women who are dealing with a lot of difficulties.
Yes.
And I just want to say, it's up to you to make the same choice I did. Like, continue the climb, even though it's difficult and you slide backwards and sometimes you want to quit and you get angry and you wonder, what's the point? And will I ever make it to the top? And I'm here to say, yes, you will. If you just got to keep going, And so I love that experience. I love sharing that, because I think we all need that message of hope and faith. This is going forward as an entrepreneur is an act of faith. Yeah. And I'm not talking religion. I'm just talking faith, having trust that the universe is going to support you.
Yes. Right? Carla, that was beautiful. It was so magical and so inspiring. I mean, I thank you so much for sharing that with us. Wow, I was like visualizing you doing this whole climb. It sounded amazing and a little scary, but okay. So let's say, Carla, if age didn't matter, what dream would you start chasing today? Just let's get deep.
Well, I have a huge to-do list. Many years ago, I did a number of immortality trainings. The idea of getting us off the idea that we have to die at a certain age, which I still believe to be true. It's all about mindset. I'm not going to tell you what my age is here today, but I know that many of you would be shocked if you knew. So, and I don't really have that much gray hair to prove it. So I'm just saying, but I don't think I would do much different. There are things I want to add on, which I'm in the process of doing. I've always been a lover of travel, and I feel like I can never have enough. So for me, it's more exploration, going to more places, and building also, which I'm in the process of right now, but this having this huger, that was good English, legacy, to leave that where, I do help larger numbers of women who are like you and like me, who, are coming from different backgrounds and maybe don't have the confidence or the faith or don't even know what their message is. It's taken me a lot of years to figure. I've had different points in my life where I'm going, oh my God, this is what I was put here for. I used to organize retreats for like 10,000 people for this very amazing woman. And when it got to around 10,000 is about the time I decided I was done. But when I was doing it, I was like, oh, okay, this is why I was put here on the earth. And I'm like, yeah, that's a piece. Sometimes people think that we come here with like one mission. And I don't believe that. I feel like, especially women, like, look at how good you're a mom. Look at how many things you multitask. You have a podcast, you have clients, you have children that you're taking care of, you have a loving husband, and you manage, and you have a social life. And I don't know how big, but anyway, you somehow you manage all that, and you do it so beautifully. And I think that's, as women, I think we're meant to be multitaskers. We're meant to have multi purposes, right, in what we do. So it's not like it's one thing. I think it's just more of, and
Yes.
bigger and bigger,
Yeah, I agree. I feel the same way. And I feel like we need to work on really enjoying the journey and not so scared and focus on the outcome, because every time I do that, I really fall in the flow and things just happen beautifully. But if I get obsessive about something and I'm really upset that I didn't get it or it didn't happen, and then my energy is low and I fall out of alignment and flow, and everything, it just spirals down in a negative way. So really, really emphasize, just enjoy the process. If you're in the flow, you're going to get to where you need to go, because that energy is going to fill you up. You're going to feel good about yourself and you're going to follow through. Now, Carla, one thing that I do always is I choose a word. Every year, this like really helps me to kind of like get focused for the year. So I'm going to ask you one, looking back, what is the word that describes your 2025, and what did that year teach you about yourself?
Oof. Oof. She said 2025 was challenging because I had just doubled my business, and I decided to go in for my knee surgery. I just felt called. I was born with a congenital defect in both my knees, and I had dealt with it for many years by building strength and all these other things. But it finally got to a point where it wasn't enough anymore. There was no cartilage left between my knees. So after this huge beginning to the year, I stepped aside, basically finished all my contracts with everybody, and put my knees on the table, literally, to get them fixed.
Yeah.
So it was a year of learning a lot about myself, like how, first of all, helping me to receive greater levels of support, being incredibly grateful for my husband, who never bitched once. Well, because at times it was really challenging. I mean, I couldn't get up off the couch, and I had to put a belt around my waist so he could help me kind of lift myself up.
Yeah.
Or just trying to walk, right? Because I mean, I could walk right away, but you're not very stable and you're not very strong. So that year, I would say it was about receiving and support. I felt contained, right? So that would be my bigger
That would be your word.
and then this year, I feel like it's about expansion. I'm just out there. Like, I've been, I think you've been seeing me out there, maybe promoting, my book. The book came along pretty quickly. Getting that out there, getting the word out there, and really going full speed ahead with my mission and expansion. So that's what I would say.
That's great. So since you're shifting for the new year, and you are trying to, go into your becoming level, what belief or mindset do you think is letting you go towards this right direction to kind of expand and be out there more and follow your dream and publish your book?
Well, that's a little harder because like with my clients, I am constantly working on whatever. If I'm feeling like I'm hitting some kind of wall, I'm using my techniques to clear the way so that I just keep going. So it's not about a particular belief. It's more about the cumulative effect of working on myself daily and also sticking to my spiritual practices, which are, I've been meditating, I don't know, I want to say for at least, oh my God, 45 years maybe, so I've only missed my meditation once in 45 years. So I'm pretty serious about that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm
So
so impressed. That's my goal. Like right now, I'm at like 4 days a week, and I my streak, and I'm really happy about it.
yeah, it does make a difference. It's funny because for the average person does not see the benefits of meditation really for maybe a long time. They might have little relief here and there, but as you continue over years of doing it, what happens is you mentioned the word flow earlier when you were talking about getting stuck. So what I feel is it's easier for me now to tap into the vibration of what flow feels like, because if we're not in flow, we can be in any lower level of any kind of emotional vibration, right? So fear, shame, guilt, they vibrate at about 20, 40, 60 maybe. And then when we get up to courage, that's a turning point. That vibrates at 250. And as we get up into the 400s, we're up into flow. That's when we start to move into flow.
Yeah.
And so I can feel myself, like I literally wrote somebody and I said, 2 weeks ago, I had another huge vibrational shift. I literally felt myself go from here to somewhere else, So, but that is the benefit of meditation, because in order to move up, I believe that you have to resolve those emotions so that you are free to vibrate at a higher frequency. Those things are weighing you down and they're keeping you out of flow. So that's my 2 cents on that one.
I absolutely agree. I love that. I think meditation is such a powerful tool, and I really feel like we need to do more of it. I mean, my goal is to do like 7 days a week, but sometimes you know how it is. It's like in the morning, kids, bus, running, and then by the time I figure it out, it's like, oh, I got to get to my first appointment or whatever, and I miss out. But absolutely, the days that I do meditate, I mean, it's a complete different day. I feel so much better. And I've really I made sure like today, I was like, first day of summit, I need to meditate. I need to get into the right mindset and be in my flow. So definitely. Now, I know you've written, your book, but I want to ask you, is there a book in your life that has significantly influenced your journey? Your mindset that you can think of, like that one book in your life?
I think a big turning point for me, this is going back way back, when I first started doing healing work on other people, and I was feeling things in their body and I was seeing them shift, right? I was seeing the emotional shift, I was seeing the physiological shift, and I didn't have the words to explain or describe what I was feeling. And of course, there was no like science, right? There was somebody in Las Vegas who wanted to hook me up to some machines and do some studies, but I guess she never got her grant. So unfortunately, that didn't go forward. But I stumbled onto a book called Molecules of Emotion by Candace Pert. And I felt like she had articulated what I was feeling with my hands from a scientific standpoint. And that, I think, was life-changing, because for me, it was validation that I wasn't friggin' out of my mind. And I can see it in my clients anyway and in the results, but to have somebody from a scientific background explain it meant a lot to me, because it gave me a deeper understanding of, not just what I was experiencing, but also like literally how emotions work from her standpoint. I see emotions because I am intuitive. I see emotions as energy in people's bodies, right? But she's talking about the molecules in terms of the cellular interaction and what happens, our receptor cells and all of that. So, she's brilliant. And if you haven't read her work, she has other work that she came out with later on.
What was her name?
It's Candace Pert.
Okay.
P-E-R-T.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's great. And you need that validation, right? That's really what you needed at that time specifically. So
yeah. And I still teach her. I quote from her in my many of my workshops, because there's nobody who said it better. And she was robbed of her Nobel Prize because she was a woman. There's a whole story about that too. So if you do some research on her, you can see, a little bit about her story, but she was an amazing woman. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Well, before we wrap up, I want to ask you, do you have a free gift or resource or special offer you would like to share with our community today?
Well, yeah, they can. I do. Let's see. So, if someone feels called to have a get to know me a little bit more and have a conversation, if you go to my website, breakthroughwithcarla.com, you can actually. I'm hoping you can't hear that ringing that's coming on my.
We can hear it.
Oh, I'm so
Can you
sorry.
turn it up?
My phone is off, but my computer for some reason is letting it happen, and I can't.
Okay, that's okay.
I apologize for that. And it's a spam call, even more exciting.
Oh, we get
So,
those all the time, right?
yeah. But anyway, if you go to breakthroughwithcarla.com and you type in, this is just good for like a couple of days, FBS, you will get a free mini session with me. It has a price on this site, but if you type in FBS and you hit apply, it'll take it down to 0. And there are a limited number of those spots open. So if you're interested, I suggest you jump on it. We talk a little bit about, some of your biggest, get super clear on your vision. What's the big gap that's holding you back? And you walk away with a very clear mini plan of what your next steps should be. And, we do explore, if you're interested, we talk about the possibility of doing some more work together. But
Can you type that in the comments?
yeah, let me try to do that. Let's see.
So
Not the whole
link.
thing, just the
link.
No, it doesn't let me do that. Comments is live viewer comments show up on StreamYard.
Okay. Yeah. So you know what? We will well, tell us the link again, and then we'll make sure we'll post it again in the Facebook Live in the comments there.
Thank you. Yeah, it's breakthroughwithcarla.com.
Okay. So let's make sure we add that in so that people can. And is that the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I think so. That, or, you can also go to my website, which is carlacohencoaching.com.
Okay.
That's a really good, just simple. If you go down to the bottom, there's a place where you can sign up for information. Up at the top is, a link for, having a conversation. But yeah, that's a good way to get on my list and kind of know what I'm up to and stay in touch.
Okay. So Carla's going to add all that information in the comments with this interview so that everyone can get a hold of her. So let me see. One last question. What is one belief about leadership you hope dies in this generation?
That men know better.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Love that. Do you have is there anything else you would like to leave with besides that? But is there anything else you want to leave the audience with today? Anything?
Yeah, I just want to say, don't argue for your limitations. Go for what's true, and I know that a lot of you don't recognize, probably even when you are arguing for your limitations, that means that you're saying no to things that maybe you should be looking at. So I just want you to think about that, because honestly, a lot of these beliefs that we have, they really do need to go away. And if you can get rid of them, what happens is you're going to start to be open to more answers from your higher self, from your inner soul, and you'll be guided, on the next best steps for yourself.
Beautifully said. Thank you for that last message. Thank you so much for being on this one-on-one interview with me and being part of our community and the summit. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you.
Thanks, Pearl. This was fun. I appreciate it. Thanks. It was a pleasure, really.
Thank you.